All right. Hello. We are here today with Nate and Ned. They are two people in Grand Rapids who have been working together in community. We've all been actually working together for a couple of years now. I call us unofficial colleagues. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with the two of you. I'll let you introduce yourselves, and then we will get into our conversation about some of the IRA work that we've been all doing. So Nate, yeah, go ahead, Nate. You're already unmuted, so we'll start with you.
Okay, hey, Nate Rauh-Bieri. I'm head of projects at JustAir Solutions. We're an environmental tech company based in Detroit, and we work in Grand Rapids with our trusted community partners, C4.
Thanks, Erica. Hi, Nate. I'm Ned Andre. I'm the C4 project coordinator. C4 is the Community Collaboration on Climate Change. Long title, we often call it C4. C4 is a climate justice organization. It's a BIPOC-led group, so led by Black, Indigenous people of color. And our primary function in Grand Rapids is to bring the BIPOC community to the table in this environmental justice sector, the climate justice sector, and resource those people, equip them, give them leadership training. And then we've taken the grant dollars that we've received. And once our ambassadors are up to speed, we then re-grant those dollars and they go out into the community and they do climate justice projects that have ranged from pocket forests to video game competitions to gardens to climate story production, a whole host of things. And we work closely with the entire sector. So MiCAN is a trusted partner, and JustAir. We did an incredible project with JustAir, putting up air quality monitors, and it was really resident driven in the BIPOC community, in the environmentally justice disadvantaged communities. Amazing project.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess a little bit more, if you can give a little bit more detail, either one of you, if you want to take this, just what the IRA has meant for you and what it's meant for the partnership between Just Air and C4. I know just before we kind of talked briefly just about, how we've been able to work like within business and things like that. So I'm just curious, where your partnership currently sits and if you can kind of explain a little bit.
Sure, just a quick background on the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. It came out of the Biden-Harris administration, and it came attached with a really incredible executive order, the Justice 40 Executive Order. And the Justice 40 Executive Order was a whole of government initiative. Every federal dollar under the purview of any agency in the Biden-Harris administration, 40% of the benefit of those dollars was to go to the disadvantaged communities. And so there are a set of screening tools that are set up at the national, state, and even the local level where communities that historically had been redlined or disadvantaged in some way, that those Justice $40 were supposed to provide benefit to those people. So that's kind of the sector that we work within. And then if you want to tell them a little bit about the Just Air partnership.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Ned. And 100%, right? In terms of that background on the IRA and on Justice 40. The partnership Just Air, we do hyperlocal air quality monitoring. We really believe in the right to every person to have a clean and healthy breathing environment due to the effects of historical and ongoing kind of systemic racism. Not everybody breathes the same air based on where you live, who you are, what zip code you're in. And that's something that we are addressing through a technology program, technology platform, where we give access to people's hyperlocal air quality. That data from that monitoring activity can be used to drive change and be given to municipalities and other decision makers. But it's really community driven. We really want to put that data in the hands of community members. And we very much recognize that while we are movement adjacent, we are a for-profit business. We really want to put data in the hands of community change makers, and we really stand on the shoulders in many ways of the historic kind of environmental justice movement, who has been, advocating for change and against sacrifice zones for decades and decades. So that's just a little bit of background behind this project. Though this project, which was the 49507 Community Air Quality Project, and JustAir was partnering with C4 on that, as well as NAACP Scales Consulting. This was not IRA funded specifically. This came from another source, but it very much coincided and was strengthened by a larger kind of arc, I think, within government and within culture and within, honestly, the climate and environmental justice movement, which was there was a lot of confidence that a transition was happening and would continue to happen. Obviously, people have held that confidence and that hope in their hearts and in their work for a long time. Didn't necessarily need a massive bill to validate that, but it does do a lot and has done a lot for showing this is the direction that markets now are moving in certain respects. Obviously, there's a lot of resistance to that. The IRA cannot do everything, but I feel like it really has infused in the environmental justice space, paired with the Justice 40, paired with the Biden-Harris administration having a environmental justice advisory committee and taking that work a lot more seriously. I think it's provided a lot more confidence in the space that yes, decarbonization is happening, and at its best, that transition away from fossil fuels and towards cleaner and healthier air and community health, that is going to be also accompanied by justice for communities who have been overburdened and under-resourced for years. By way of background, I'll say a little bit more about our project specifically. We put up 7 monitors within the 49507 zip code. Ned can speak more to this, but we really engaged community members and residents on deciding where to place those monitors based on where they wanted to know more about their air quality and based on their community knowledge of pollution sources. And so we did that, and we held a series of workshops to bring the community along on that project and what we were finding to deepen our research questions and to really provide access to that real-time and historic data that we were collecting. Those monitors remain up in the community and accessible to today at justair.app.
And for our part, C4, as he indicated, Just Air operating out of Detroit, they were looking for a trusted community partner that could help them reach the population in Grand Rapids that they wanted to reach. So C4 specializes in this BIPOC and environmentally disadvantaged communities. So when we heard about this grant, right, we co-wrote with Just Air, excited to be a part of it. And as Nate indicated, it was to be resident driven, to be resident led. So C4 went out into the community and we canvassed door to door. We canvassed at local grocery stores, convenience stores, gas stations. And our goal is always to reach the Black, the Indigenous, the people of color, so Latinos, Asians, and others. And then we've also incorporated the unhoused, the disabled, the youth, the elderly. So all of these marginalized people that very rarely are brought to the table of decision making and equipped and resourced with dollars, we brought those people. We led 3 workshops, very well attended by those groups that I just mentioned, and they were ecstatic to have someone roll out a map of their own community, explain what air quality is, how air quality monitors work, and then turn to them and say, now that you have this baseline of information, where would you want to put these 7 monitors in your community? And to see people say, well, we could put one by my kid's school. Someone say, hey, we could put one next to the community center. We could put one where this elderly housing complex lives. Or, hey, there's a factory located right here in this downtown-ish neighborhood. One should go there. And when they were given the opportunity to control where those monitors went in, then they were so much more apt to say, we want to sign up for the dashboard. And when they get onto the dashboard is now providing them real-time actionable data. Hey, the air quality in your neighborhood by this monitor is poor. That gives people the ability to say, hey, I'm going to keep the grandkids inside today, or I'm going to have my children wear a mask on the way to school today, or you know what? We're going to pick up an air purifier for our home so that when we close up the windows and turn on the AC this summer, our indoor air quality is better than our outdoor air quality. So it was absolutely the kind of project that C4 loves to get involved with, empowering the community, not just educating and advocating, but then saying, now that you have this education, here's action that you can take to improve the quality of life for your community. So it was a wonderful project and a real pleasure for C4 to participate in.
Yeah, no, and I think it's the coolest part to me, I think, is that everybody's involved in this. It is a nonprofit, right? It is, I guess, community organization. It is a for-profit, so a business, but then it's also community, right? It's everybody involved. It is everybody's data, and we all deserve to have access to it, right? We all deserve to know what's going on in our communities. So this is a super cool collaboration just to see everybody working alongside each other. I think is the most important thing we can do for our communities. And so I guess there's a pretty obvious answer to me as we talk to the community collaboration on climate change and somebody who monitors air quality. But what motivated you all to kind of make these transitions? What motivated you to get into, looking for this funding or, the partnership between JustAir and C4? Like, were there specific events or reasons that spurred from it? Were there certain people that you knew that were impacted directly? And yeah, what led you to doing this today?
Well, what I'd say is I'm a retired school teacher, and after 30 years in the classroom teaching in the social science field with a lot of geography and economics and civics and all of these, American history, world history, religion, all the sociological components, I had already been an advocate in education for so much of what we just talked about. And then in my retirement, I was able to say, hey, I can now take this knowledge and not just educate, but drive action. So when I found C4 and C4 found me and we got involved in this work, what I really liked the most about it was that we know that the people have often been excluded. If you go all the way back to trickle down economics, that those who know best are going to hover above our communities, make decisions, move resources, move money. C4's approach has been completely different. We want a bubble up economy. We want to move the resources. These are American taxpayers' dollars. These disadvantaged people who get hit first and who get hit worse, they're experiencing this stuff in real time. So as climate has changed and environment has gotten worse, um, they're out on the street suffering. The unhoused are suffering with these heat waves, or the elderly are. The heat is now we know the number one killer in all weather related phenomena. These elderly folks that are sitting in their big brick old apartments and they're having heat stroke and all these other kind of things to get the money to those folks because C4 is big on incentive. We incentivize people to come out. We want to pay you for your time and your lived experience. We don't want to just say, hey, would you come take some pictures with us and can give us your lived experience? And thanks so much for the good work you've done. We are literally removing barriers so people aren't coming to these kind of events because they don't have transportation. We'll provide it. Community events are often held in the evening during dinner time. So guess what? We're going to provide a meal. Folks will say, hey, we want to come, but I got 3 kids in tow. We'll provide childcare so that we remove those barriers to access so that you can attend. We'll even incentivize you and say, here's a stipend for your time because your lived experience is equally as valuable as the PhD or the government bureaucrat. All of society has to come together. So as we brought those people to the table, it's just amazing to see those resources go to the people. They're going to bubble up. They're going to make it back up to the top and into the hands of the guys at the top anyway. Just passing through the community is such a blessing.
Yeah, and I'll say for Just Air, we started in 2021, and we were founded by Darren Riley. Our founder is was living in Detroit at the time, and Darren developed asthma as an adult. I think that really, out of that personal experience, as well as his tech background, as well as his attunement to social injustice and all of the ways that people are not able to breathe, founded this vision of JustAir, and that we are really all about trying to protect the 20,000 breaths that every person takes on average every single day. How can we make those breaths as quality as possible? How can we remove the disparities that exist between what kind of breaths people take? So I think that was hugely motivating. Uh, though Darren lived in Detroit, actually the Grand Rapids community really gave him a lot of support to get started, in terms of the community, in terms of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so actually our first monitors, though we are now working across several different states, as well as, we have large projects across Michigan, really started in Grand Rapids in a large sense. So because of the network, because of the connections, I think that's one of the beautiful things about this community and the environmental sector in Grand Rapids is people know each other, are ready to collaborate. So when there was funding that was available, we were ready to take advantage of it and knew exactly who to talk to. And C4 has done a tremendous, tremendous job making sure that our air quality monitoring and our platform is always responsive to community. That's very much our goal. So though that we were founded in 2021, that was before the IRA was passed, which was 2022. We really have seen so much momentum from that bill in the space for the reasons I mentioned earlier about, hey, environment, like there is confidence, a transition is happening, decarbonization is happening. It's always going to be a fight, right? But there's more confidence that there can be justice as part of that transition as well, and not just simply just transition, but a justice and equity centered transition. So when we started, one person, Darren, now here in 2024, we have 8 employees, and we're poised to do a lot more in the space. So I think that speaks to the IRA, and that funding, especially when with the Justice 40 initiative, there is now momentum towards doing this kind of work, and communities are responding to that. Beyond Grand Rapids, our project with C4 in Grand Rapids has really set a model that other cities are now eager to replicate. And so much credit to this project and to C4 as a partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I think I'm hearing right now is like, no matter where you are, no matter what the population size, right? Grand Rapids with less than 200,000 people, it creates a ripple effect. Detroit is 13th in the nation for some of the worst particulate matter, and Grand Rapids is 25th in the nation for some of the worst ozone pollution. And so when we talk about small cities making big moves, if we consider cleaning our air a bit, that could be a substantial change for the entire country. And then obviously, if we start doing and modeling the type of vision that C4 is taking within your work and within your, or I guess I could say within our vision and mission, we can really start to change the direction that people are taking across the Midwest or across the country. So my question, to you, because I think people would like to know is how or did you utilize IRA funding within this? What kind of government funding or programs, tax incentives are available, and were you able to take advantage of those? And then, I guess just from your understanding, how to begin to do those things.
Yeah. Thanks, Erica. The one thing I want to mention is that C4, our leadership, Kareem Scales and Anna Jose, our leadership team directors, they're the co-chairs of the organization. When they looked at the IRA and they saw what was coming down the pipe, they recognized that education and advocacy were going to be some of the first steps. So before the IRA money even came, one of the things that they did on our leadership team, we have a large group of leadership. We were literally a large collaboration of historical organizations like the U.S. Green Building Council or WMEAC or the Essential Needs Task Force, and on down the line, coupled with these BIPOC individuals who came on board and our ambassadors who are an integral part of our program. They saw that that education and advocacy had to start. And so we sat down with a lot of our local leaders and they had heard about the IRA, they have heard about Justice 40, but we found ourselves really filling in their missing information. So we explained to them what Justice 40 was and that while 40% of the benefit is supposed to go to the disadvantaged community, we also encourage them to push for 40% of the dollars to go to the disadvantaged community because even in the language that word benefit, what is the benefit? Well, C4 went around the country. We went from Washington, D.C. to Cleveland, Ohio, to Detroit, to Grand Rapids, to Chicago, to Oakland, California, to San Diego, California, and explained to people the benefit is the dollar. The dollar is the benefit. So we've encouraged all of these community-based organizations, a lot of the grants and opportunities that are coming through the IRA. There's a partnership between a community-based organization and some other entity like a municipality, a tribal government. We've encouraged them to negotiate for the dollars as well as the benefit. So that educational piece was really beneficial. And then to the community itself, there was a lot of education that we've done. So at all of our events, we've brought folks, bringing in people like Aaron Newman, a green realtor, who says, hey, one of the best times to retrofit your house is when you're selling it or buying it, because then the house is empty. And instead of living in the midst of the construction, you can piece this all together. The other piece that we pushed for as we advocated for the disadvantaged community is this rebate concept. Rebates are wonderful, but there's a downside to rebates. Rebates mean you pay 100% up front and then you get your 80% back on the return end. Well, a lot of disadvantaged homeowners or renters or other individuals, they don't have the money up front. So we were really pushing with the State Department, Eagle, all of these state agencies to say we need we need those rebates up front. And they pushed for that. And then some of the legislation they were moving, that language was incorporated. The other piece we warned the consumer about is predatory lending. So appliance companies and installers will say, hey, don't worry if you don't have the money up front because we have the financing. You can finance this stuff today, get the rebate and pay it back. Well, the financing can be predatory. It can be coming at 24, 25, 27%. Sometimes they'll go to that maximum. I think it just increased to some 27%. So we were really warning consumers, hey, don't fall for that super expensive financing. If you're gonna finance any of these, swapping out your furnace for a heat pump, because a heat pump gets rid of your furnace and your air conditioner. That same unit heats and cools. It's much more efficient. But negotiate for that 5% loan, that 3% loan, because they're going to get the money paid back very quickly within a 6 month time frame. And then that last 20% that the consumer still has to pay, they're only paying 3%. So that education and advocacy has been one of C4's biggest tools in this whole scenario.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, advocacy and education. That's what C4 does so well. That's why we love to partner with them. As a for-profit company, we have a slightly different role in the ecosystem. So, as the IRA has rolled out, certainly some of those grant dollars are coming out now for projects. As a for-profit, we can't apply for federal funding. However, we are partnered with and ready to come alongside any communities that are interested in applying for community air quality projects. That's where we're seeing a lot of interest right now. And so we're excited about what the future looks like in that regard. I'll also just go back to the word momentum that I've used before. I think even though the IRA was signed into law about a little over 2 years ago now, I think that sent a strong signal throughout the ecosystem of there is going to be funding for decarbonization. There is funding for community air quality work. There is funding for environmental justice. It's coming. That has caused other grant makers to say, hey, this is worth putting money into. This is where things are going. I think that's been very important. And I think also, a lot of the kind of clean energy and decarbonizing technologies that are, getting a real shot in the arm through the IRA. These are things that, you know, are going to play out in terms of local air quality, right? So I don't really see decarbonization and hyperlocal air quality and the health impacts, the justice impacts, economic impacts as really separate. Um, I think climate and carbon in the atmosphere can really feel very abstract sometimes, but air quality, that is on the level of the body, right? That is on the level of the neighborhood and the community. And that's where people's priorities are. If, as soon as you don't have breath, you or the air is dirty, like that is what you were thinking about, right? The good news is that addressing air quality and addressing climate are largely overlapping. If you address the sources of climate change, largely fossil fuel combustion, you also are addressing a large part of local air quality concerns as well. Um, so I think we're seeing a lot of interest now in, hey, from communities or, municipalities, we're going to be rolling out these wonderful new technologies. We are moving towards a lower carbon future in terms of transport, in terms of energy sources and whatnot. We should start measuring what kind of impact that's going to make when we do that. And so actually, as JustAir, we're now positioned to start monitoring the air so we have a pretty good sense of what the air was before and what it's going to be after as we start to see some of these technologies being deployed, as well as the kind of community advocacy of our partners to make sure that those technologies get employed and employed in a just and equitable way.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely, Nate. And can I add one more component there? Another component that C4 has been involved with in this regard is that we have a jobs development program, career development program. It's small right now, but some of our ambassadors have been trained now. They've gone to the Building Performance Institute. They got training on um, being able to do energy audits at homes because a lot of people think, hey, we need to build better. We need to build new. Certainly, we do. As new buildings come online, we need to make sure that they're energy efficient and that we have good energy efficiency there. But there's 85,000 homes in Grand Rapids that need to be retrofitted. So we've now positioned some of our ambassadors to do home energy audits. They can, so all of these rebates on these new heat pumps and other various kind of technologies, the consumer doesn't always understand the need for that. So when our ambassadors now can do these home energy audits, we can specifically go to a home and say, we've run a blower door test. We see where you're leaking energy. You're leaking hot air in the winter and you're leaking cold air in the summer. We can now, with very simple insulation and air sealing techniques, improve efficiencies pretty dramatically just on those air sealing techniques. And then the heat pumps and the various other elements that go into the home, when those go in, that improved efficiency really gets them great energy savings. And that's one of C4's big components. We recognize that there are people in the disadvantaged community that are paying 20, 25, sometimes 30% of their gross income toward keeping the heat on and the lights on. And if we can get them these kind of energy savings, they'll be able to take those dollars that they save and reinvest those into their community. So that's been another big component of our mission is to get people to a true energy justice of really only 6% of your total income should be going toward heating and cooling of your home. So that's another big win for C4 and the community as we move in this direction.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Ned. Sorry, let me just jump back in in terms of green jobs, right? I mentioned that Just Air, we were founded with one person, Darren. We're at 8 people now, and we're a Black-led and majority Black-owned company, and we're poised to just continue to grow and make more jobs, not only in Michigan, right, but anywhere that we work that air quality monitoring needs to be done. It's a specialized skill. It's a skill that can be learned. That is good work. That is community-based work, and we're really confident that the ripple effects, the momentum of the IRA and other dollars in that space is going to lead to a lot more good jobs. So love what Ned said about the different forms that IRA driven kind of jobs will have, and we certainly are seeing that in our sector as well.
Yeah. And it just, I guess the only thing I wanted to really add is that I think to me, it seems like no matter who's making the investment, no matter who's investing in taking the time to get this funding or where the funding comes from, or whether or not you're doing it for profit or you're doing it in community, if it's an ambassador, everybody benefits from these types of investments. Every single person and it benefits from having their air monitored and knowing what the quality of it is. Every person benefits from having organizations that are uplifting marginalized voices so that we can get to the solutions that are going to be beneficial for every type of person, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
trade-offs are always, always worth it, right? The investment in the people, it sounds to me like will always be beneficial both to the business owner and the community organizations, as well as the residents who live in that area.
Yeah, those benefits shouldn't be captured. They should flow and keep circulating in the community in a good way. And yeah, 100%. Love what you said there.
So would you say you think others should do the same? You know, others being obviously now with knowledge, and maybe some guidance, others can be individuals, others can be businesses, others can be community organizations. Like, would you recommend this process or, investing in these ideas?
Absolutely, without question. It's really clear. The science is clear. The climate is changing. It is man-made climate change. We do know that there was a cyclical nature of climate change in the past, but we've seen now an exponential growth. And ultimately, you might hear other organizations talk about a triple bottom line that regardless of what angle you come at this from, it's good for everyone. It's a win-win-win. It's good for business to cut costs. It's good for the consumer to cut costs. It's good for the planet to stop dumping all of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So it's really a win for everyone. And so even with political changes in the future, it really doesn't matter. Saving money is going to help everyone. And these technologies have just gotten so much better, so much more efficient. Please be careful, be warned that there's still misinformation out there, disinformation. When I say we need to install a heat pump that can heat and cool a home, well, heat pump 1.0 wasn't all that good. And some of these early appliance adopters say, hey, this isn't that great. We're on heat point 9.0. Heat pump 9.0 is very efficient and at heating and cooling. And so getting good information to the community, and whether people say, hey, even if someone said climate change, it's not real. You still want to save money on your heat bill. You still want to save money on your electric bill, your gas bill, all of these appliances. So it's win-win for everyone, no matter what angle they come at it from.
Yeah, we still want good breathing air, no matter, who you are. Such a great point.
Yeah, I agree. And, as humanity, we've never tried to make the transition like we're currently trying to make in terms of shifting our energy systems and doing that and kind of overturning decades and centuries of injustice at the same time, right? So that we can survive and, in fact, have the possibility of thriving right on the other side. It's a massive undertaking. It's going to take everybody blending their skills and what they have to bring to the table. I really love a quote by a climate writer, Mary Annaïse Hegler, who talks about how the thing about climate is you can really either be overwhelmed by the complexity or the problem, or you can fall in love with the creativity of the solutions. And I think the IRA and what practitioners on the ground are showing, there are so many creative solutions. And now there's actually funding behind that. So I think anybody who's listening in, anybody who's interested in this work, there are so many different ways to contribute. And now, fortunately, there are more resources in the space to be able to back you up.
Wow.
And piggybacking on what Nate just said, the time is now for action. We've done the thinking, we've done the planning, we have the tools that are necessary now. We don't need the invention of some new space age machine that's going to do. We have everything that we need right now. The only step that's still required is action. You might not have a C4 or a JustAir in your community, but guess what? You can find information. Nate just referenced climate writers. At C4, for our ambassadors, we use Project Drawdown as a tremendous curriculum piece. And the number one thing that you find in Project Drawdown, you just Google it, look it up. They have hundreds of climate change solutions right now that you can implement. And these dollars that are available are amazing resources, not just the appliances and the rebates, but there's solar, there's wind, there's all these different current technologies that can be put into action right now. So we always give a call to action at C4. Our leadership through Kareem and Anna have always said, thinking and meeting and planning and strategizing and all of those things are necessary, but we need to get up and we need to take action today. And there's all kinds of little things that you can do and big things as well.
Yeah. Now, I think one of the last things I'll ask, and then, yeah, I think you both have said a lot of really insightful things, and so I don't want to keep pushing. I think, if folks have more questions, they should definitely reach out to both Nate or Ned, depending on what angle they're looking to take within this. But what would you do differently? And is there any advice that you want to give folks before maybe taking this journey personally? Or as a organization or business. Yeah, any advice you want to leave just within any of the work that either one of you do.
I would say expect it maybe to be a bit of a bumpy road. Don't expect it to be smooth, and don't be discouraged by that, right? I think sometimes saying this is going to be and is a messy transition can be used to kind of paper over some really poor behavior. I think there's another side of that of just saying it's a messy transition, and that like, hey, humans are imperfect. We coordinating takes work, right? And maybe you don't get it right the first time, but I think that people shouldn't be discouraged. I think that's part of the nature of trying to do what we're trying to do in the time frame we're trying to do it. And so, hey, if it's I'm trying to figure out a rebate and trying to figure out how to get this appliance in my house. And hey, I've got this little setback or this little setback. Hey, keep going. Whether it's founding a company, hey, nobody's doing this in this space, but the need is there. I believe that the need is there, right? There are so many different setbacks that JustAir we've had as a small company, but we've really trusted the vision, trusted the process, and trusted our partners. And we're able to then overcome these setbacks that just are going to occur, doing the kind of important, meaningful work that we're trying to do.
Yeah, what I'd say to that, if you listen to the name of our organization, the Community Collaboration on Climate Change, you can't do this alone. Build community. Um, I was actually stunned to learn that in Project Drawdown, one of the most amazing things they said, they talk about building community, relationship. They said one of the number one things we could do on a worldwide basis to address the climate change crisis is give women full equality on a worldwide basis. And I thought, what does that have to do with solving the climate change? Well, it's all relational. So build community, build relationship. Start maybe in your own family. Talk to the family. Hey, here's why we're going to make some moves in the house. We're going to do some better air sealing, and we're going to put some insulation in. We're going to do some of this, apply for some of these rebates. But then, what about your church community, your faith-based community, your synagogue? What about your school? Because your kid's school needs it. You don't, all climate change solutions are local. We are battling a global problem that plays out at the local level. So working on your kid's school, your community faith-based, working on your neighborhood community center, your local business, all of those will require community. Work with, you want to build a collaboration. You don't want to tell people what they need to do. You want to bring people to the table. You want to educate people. You do need to pop the bubble. You need to bring more than just your friends. You need to bring the whole community. We're looking for the disadvantage. The well-to-do need to work with the less advantaged, with the, black and white and brown, and all the groups need to come together because this problem, it is global, and it will take every single one of us working together and that collaboration, that community. To Nate's point, when he's talking about the challenges that you will encounter, this isn't going to be easy, but it's doable. But when you do it in community, I bring my skill set, you bring your skill set, I have this ability, you have it in community. We can achieve this. It is absolutely achievable that we can mitigate and we can adapt to climate change in real time today. Take action today. Build community.
You are so right. And that is such a great note to leave it on, Ned. As the Michigan Climate Action Network, I would have to agree that it is all about collaboration, right? It's all about uplifting each other. It's all about being there with each other and, grabbing every person you can think of to join the cause because it does impact all of us. I really appreciate you not only for your work within this, but for your time today. I really appreciate you for taking time out of your lives and out of your schedules to tell people, this story. And I really, have a strong feeling that it will continue to impact people's ability to continue to do this work, just hearing any of the hopeful sentiment that you've given. So with that, I think we are all good. Yeah,
Well,
thank you for your time.
thanks, Erica. Thanks for all the work that you do and that MiCAN does to make critical connections between people all over this ecosystem.
Ditto. Thank you so much, Erica. You've been an incredible climate justice warrior, environmental justice warrior, social warrior. It's amazing. MiCAN is an incredible partner. C4 is partnered with MiCAN, and they are that connector as well that Nate just mentioned. So keep up the great work, MiCAN.
Thank you.